Oh, puppy.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Glad to see you. And this evening we're discussing working with energy, metaphysics, runes, and communicating. With our special guest tonight is BRET YACCOBUCCI. Good evening, Brett. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Nice to see you.
Good evening, Elaine. Yeah, nice to see
you
you as well.
Yourself, please.
It's not showing up on YouTube, Elaine.
Okay. Well, I'm BRET YACCOBUCCI. I'm a rune specialist, a neutral energy worker, and what that means is that I take an extremely unique approach to what I do. I don't believe in light and dark. I don't believe in you know, the traditional sense. What I do believe in is that everything has an equal right to live, to exist, to thrive, to grow, and you know, and I just basically just, you know, help everything heal. And it's not the easiest way to work, but it still works very well with an extremely high success rate for negotiations and helping others heal through processes that they're working through.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got some questions for you, if you don't mind, Brett.
Yeah. Fire away.
Okay. First one is, can you tell us a bit about what led you to pursue the metaphysical and energy work, and was there a particular experience that set you on this path?
Well, believe it or not, it was an experience, like throughout my whole life, I've always been able to tell when, whenever anybody had something kind of going on, an illness. I always call it my gut feeling. And back in 2007, I'm going to keep this kind of light because it's quite a heavy event. You know, I basically had about 1.5 to 2 years where I was constantly being, I don't want to say bugged, but you know, I had entities that kept trying to pester me for about 2 years, and needless to say, they weren't exactly the most positive of entities. I believe they weren't of this earth as well. However, that's my own belief. I don't have any proof. That's just my own belief. And then that followed by another 2 years of learning at an exponential rate from both non-terrestrial and terrestrial sources, from people and from other entities. And then that put me down the rabbit hole that I still have yet to really come back out of. I mean, that's obviously the Coles Note version because it's quite a heavy subject to get into if I really went into detail. But with that being said, I'd be glad to go into detail at a later point if the topic of extraterrestrials and non-terrestrial beings happens to come up.
Sure. You also spoke at Paracon in 2016 and the Alien Cosmic Expo in 2017, correct?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and the Paracon, I spoke with my energy work partner, and there's only one person really in the world that I trust as much as this gentleman to get stuff done when it comes to it. With him and I can literally move universes if we have to. And he spoke with me at it was the Eastern Ontario Paracon up in Ottawa, and it was 2016 or 2015. I can't exactly remember when. I know it's been a year or two since it happened, and we discussed kind of basic protections and you know, use of stones and certain rituals, as well as some basic techniques when you're dealing with entities on investigation and just in general, not just even on investigation. And at the Paracon in 2017, I spoke about alien implants and a little bit about my experience that I described in Cole's notes, but I went in a bit more detail because obviously Alien Cosmic Expo they're there to hear about aliens. So I was able to go in a bit more detail in a bit more of an open forum.
That's great. Great. So I know you occasionally assist in paranormal investigations. Could you tell us a bit about what you do in an investigation, what type of tools you use, what kind of energetic beings or entities that you've encountered?
Oh, that's a topic I could go on for days. So I'm going to try and keep it simple. You know, it's just to kind of give enough to kind of hold things over. But generally, when I go on a site, it's usually worst case scenario because I'm very honest, I guess you could say, because I found that it always gave me a headache if I tried to reword things or change, you know, try to sugarcoat things that I see and that I feel and that I experience. But with that being said, though, usually the light, fluffy ones, that's when I, you know, I don't really feel the need to go to the site. I can usually do stuff remotely, like help the entities heal to move on, come to a negotiation where where everybody is, we come to a peaceful agreement between the property, the entities on the property, and the human beings that are living on that property. And if an agreement can't be met, then well, then that's when I have to go. That's when I have to get a little bit forceful, which I don't like doing that because that's the, you know, that starts to get a little bit aggressive in that manner. However, sometimes all it takes is just listening to the entity, listening to the energy to be able to say, hey, I know you're hurting. What can I do to help? What can I do to help you heal? What can I do to help you move on? And believe it or not, this approach carries across working with humans on a lot of issues, because a lot of times, a lot of people just need to just want that acknowledgement, just want that they just want that attention, and then having just somebody say, hey, what can I do to help you heal, or what can I do to help you get out of your situation, will quite often spark their own healing process. So with that being said, quite often, like I work with John Moore at Ottawa Paranormal, and yes, I know the little puppies there. and you know, like I go anywhere from Windsor all the way up to Ottawa to help people if I have to in person. And when I'm with the team, I act as a medium, as a transition medium, as a protector of the team, through using different various techniques, harmonics techniques, light pushing techniques, basically whatever's kind of needed, because my background is extremely varied. I've worked with shamans, I've worked with witch doctors, I've worked with exorcists, I've worked with demonologists, I've worked with Wiccans, and I've kind of taken it all and put it all together into what makes a very varied and versatile set of techniques that works. And likewise, when it comes to the different tools that I use, those are also varied, and every case is unique. So really, I'll work with team for John Moore's the one in Ottawa Paranormal. I've been working with them for the longest. Aside from my own team, I ran for a couple of years, but that was so that I could validate when I was learning how to trust my feelings and how to trust my abilities. But I use runes. To some extent, I can use, like, I don't like using my tarot when it comes to helping entities move on, but I prefer runes. Hence, I'm a rune specialist. The tarot have very pretty pictures when I'm doing readings for people, but the runes are where my forte are, and you can use them to make temporary charms, temporary talismans, you know, protections, grids, that kind of stuff. And then to complement all of that, I then also have my stones, you know, my quartz, my tourmaline. I try to keep my stones simple because I can reprogram them on the fly so that they can serve a different purpose literally as I go from step to step if need be. The big thing that I like to use is that this is my this is just a piece of iron, like raw iron out of Sudbury.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure how much you know about old history, but the old demon hunters and that, and anybody who kind of worked with any type of negative energy to help transmute it, they always used iron. And I do have a couple of I have a couple of things I had to have a blacksmith done up in iron that aren't necessarily socially acceptable to show to live media. So that's why I just took the raw iron. But iron is a great dampening tool. It's a great energy sink. So if you're not sure what you're going to be running into on site, no matter how negative it is or how overwhelming of an emotional energy it is, iron works very well as an energy sink, so that you don't take the brunt of it. The iron will help take it, so you can actually kind of control what's going on.
Okay.
And last but not least, I love my Tibetan singing bowl, because that thing there, it's great. It's a great natural binaural beat. It works extremely well for both healing for human issues and human trauma and human things, as well as also entities and energy healing as well, because of what it does. And how exactly it works with working with the energy outside, because I see the human effects, because I use it all the time for helping humans heal and other people heal when I'm doing guidance sessions and whatnot. But it works very well at breaking things loose, so they're more apt to talk, to bring things out of their hiding places, so to speak. Because as it's common knowledge, entities and energies can attach to literally everything. And when you're smudging or saging, whatever mix you happen to use, it makes it kind of particular. So you have to make sure that you get the smudge or the smoke wherever it is you got to go. And something that I don't use personally, but I know other people use it, are the cleansing bells that the priests use and the exorcists use quite often because of the high pitch. Mm-hmm. And like the shamans use a lot of drums and rattles and stuff, because I kind of I have apps on my phone to simulate those sounds. So if I really need to use them, I can use them too. Now, as for entities, well, that's a whole other ballgame altogether. Because of the neutral aspect of my work and unbiased aspect of my work, I get the unique opportunity of dealing with beings of the quote-unquote light and beings of the quote-unquote dark on equal footing. But I don't see them as dark and light. I just see them all as entities and energies and creatures that all have the equal right to live. Uh-huh. Much like human beings, we all have the equal right to live. And so, I have dealt with what your standard biblical text would say is an angel, many angels, many of note, according to the Bible and other religious texts. And then I have also dealt with many what people would classify as quote unquote demons. And to me, the only difference between the two is how they're perceived, really. They both serve the same functions. They both work as guardians for different realms. It's just the kind of predisposed conception or perception, I should say, on what they do and what each don't do. Do I have a side I prefer to work with? Not really. As long as you don't mean to harm anybody or harm anything, I will help you in what you're trying to do. As long as you're not being harmful towards any other living energy or person or being or creature.
Right.
So within that, I've worked with elementals, I've worked with extraterrestrials, I've worked with human spirits, I've worked with extra dimensional creatures, which can also fall under the same thing as extraterrestrials, but they're slightly different. But even then, who's to say what? Because as far as modern sciences goes, extraterrestrials don't exist. But you know, like, my perception is my perception, and so my experience and my beliefs are mine, and you know what? And however I choose to interpret things, as long as it works in a positive fashion, in my opinion, it works.
Right.
Right. And so I say I work with extraterrestrials once in a while. However, you know, you can choose to perceive that however you wish to perceive it.
I had actually a couple of rather interesting experiences when it comes to extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
That I think you might be interested in, Brett.
Oh yeah, I love hearing stories.
Okay. Years ago, my birthday is July the 23rd. Well,
Yep.
for 2 years in a row, on the 24th, this UFO, like a saucer-shaped kind of a thing, would hover over the bay by our house. And it just kept flashing red, white, green, red, white, green. And then that's all you'd hear, and it would take off. It would stay there for about 10 minutes.
Yep.
So this happened for 3 years in a row, and always the day after my birthday, always the same time in the evening. And then on the 4th year, I went out to look for it, but it was raining and very foggy, and we couldn't see a thing. And then I never saw it after that. But another interesting thing was my granddad, we were driving him home after having him out for dinner one night. And all of a sudden, the sky lit up like day. And we saw this huge, bright light following the path of the river. Well, of course, the government, they tried to let on that it was a meteorite. Well, a meteorite, to my knowledge, never follows a path. It just down it comes and it crashes, you know.
Yep.
But this thing followed the path of the river and then all of a sudden just took off. And then we were right back to night again.
Yep. Those are very interesting experiences. Because usually, if I may provide a little bit of light on that, usually, unless any sort of craft or UFO really wants you to know that they're there, you won't know that they're there. And so obviously they wanted you to see them. I do believe the ones that, now I'm just kind of very briefly timeline viewing and seeing what's going on. But the ones that kept visiting on your birthday, that was a way of saying, hey, you know, we're here kind of watching you. We're here to, you know, we know it's your birthday. Happy birthday. And then they take off. That one down the river, well, you know, that's an amazing thing to see, because not many people get that opportunity to see that.
No.
And and I don't get any malice off it. I don't get any negative intentions off it. I get just that they were kind of there. Again, kind of something similar to say that, hey, we know you got something going on, but hey, we're here to kind of help you. And then they took off after you realized they were there.
Yeah. No, I didn't feel any fear at all when I saw them.
Yeah.
It was, you know, hey, you're there. Hi.
No, hey, you know what? That's you know, then that's a very good thing, because quite often the human body is a very good antenna. And so if something is happening where we shouldn't be there, our body lets us know. And you know, and I've been asked by a lot of people, you know, like, aren't you afraid of things you deal with? No, I'm not. And it's A, because I got lots of help when it comes to protections and guardians and that kind of stuff, as well as my own techniques. But B, if something's going to hurt me, I will make sure I disarm the situation, make sure that I'm safe first, but then I'll turn around and I'll try to transmute that anger, try to transmute that rage or whatever, those harmful intentions into something good. And if they can't be, well, then I send them on their way. And it, you know, because that's what you got to do. You got to basically say, yes, I acknowledge that you're there. What do you want? If you're good, all right, pass the message along. Let's learn. Let's talk. Let's do what we got to do. And if they're harmful, still learn from the experience, but then say, no, I don't need you, and then let them be on their way. Because as silly as it sounds, boundaries go a very long way. As silly as it sounds so simple, but really, that's one of the grand secrets is having that willpower to set those boundaries, and then virtually anything that you don't want to get at you will have a very difficult time getting at you, because the universe will start to make that bubble or make those protections for you if you set those boundaries correctly.
Okay. All right. Aside from doing paranormal investigations, in what other ways do you work with energy, and what type of tools would you use for these practices?
Well, similar to what I use for paranormal work, I use those exact same stones, if not a different set of stones, to help with my work. I got my quartz here.
Ooh, nice.
I call it the blob, because when I look at its personality, that's what it looks like, is a blob. It can take any form I need. It can do anything I need. And usually just this and my iron are all I'm usually carrying on me if I'm doing anything. And I can tell you, this quartz is not the biggest one I've had, but this quartz has run 5 times as much energy through it simultaneously as all my other quartz combined that I cracked with running energy through it.
Wow.
So I don't know what it is about it, but it works really well. And so really, like when I'm working with intense energy, the quartz and iron are the key to doing what I got to do. So those are probably my basic tools. However, again, I don't worry about like if I'm not sure how to do something, I make sure I call for my help, whether it's terrestrial help or high vibrational help. I call for help, and because there's a lot of things where you need the help, or you don't understand what's going on, and sometimes a bit of enlightenment or a bit of meditation will help work with that. And so when when I'm working with energies to help with healing, because that's primarily what I work on, is healing. I don't like to say I do combat, because that gives it a negative intention.
Right.
I can defend myself. I can defend any region or area or realm, whatever I have to defend. But I'm always trying to do it in a positive light. I'm always trying to do it in a constructive light. And so with that being said, like if it comes to dealing with something with the earth, I will employ the same techniques, the same negotiations, and only use combat, quote unquote combat, as an absolute last resort. However, I always choose, instead of injuring, to disable and relocate to try and help that energy or that person or that individual kind of learn a lesson, to figure it out. Hey, what I'm doing isn't necessarily right because it's hurting others, but, and so on and so forth. Because quite often, because of societal differences, so much like, like if an explorer comes across a new tribe or that they didn't know about, or anything like that, right? Like just because their ways are different doesn't mean that our ways are more right than theirs. And so I employ much of that when I'm working, when I'm building, because I work with a lot of different high vibrational energies, quantum energies, harmonic energies, to try and help high vibrational energies and humans heal. And when I say that, I mean, like, I'll augment your healing. So say if, you're battling a cold, I won't take the cold away from you, but I'll augment your body's natural healing ability. Right. And so that way there, I'm not doing the work for you. Your body's still doing the work. I'm just giving your body additional resources to work with. And that's kind of my direct application for the 3D realms, or what we can see, hear, and touch and feel and smell. But, you know, I do work with a lot of high vibrational energies to help solve problems as well, which in turn, you know, you see a trickle down effect into this realm when you do stuff upstairs, is what I call it. And it's kind of neat because, say, for example, there's a set of dreams that I had a while back, a couple of years ago. And I have dreams all the time, and they're usually fairly close to being accurate. But, you know, I've never been one to watch the news. And all I saw was forest fires going on. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, so then, you know, I'm at work one day, and they're like, did you just hear Rome's on fire? Like, Rome has all the fires going around it. I'm like, is that what I've been seeing? And then I have that same dream again, but then sure enough, I cross-reference it with the forest fires going around Rome. I'm going, oh, okay, that's what I've been seeing. So, you know, and then somehow, you know, I just put a bit of positive energy into the area, and then things started to turn around. Whether it was my own positive energy that helped, or whether it was the way that was going to happen, who knows, right? But I do see, when I work with somebody, I do see a positive effect. When I help someone heal, when I work somebody through a bit of a challenge or anything like that, whether it be an internal challenge or an external challenge. And sometimes I'll work with people, I'll just say, okay, I'll help you, especially remotely from a site or something like that. And they don't know what I'm doing, but then they, you know, I'll ask them afterwards, well, how did you feel? What did you feel? What were you experiencing? And quite often they're like, oh, out of nowhere, I felt this tingling, and then I felt lighter. I felt like a load was taken off my shoulders, right? And so I would like to think I went there. I would like to think that I made that change. And that's why I don't tell people what I'm doing when I'm working around them half the time, to just as a validation for my own work sometimes, because I trust my abilities. I know I do it, but then it's neat to see how other people pick it up too. And so, you know, I'm not Reiki certified, but I do practice some of their methods. My father's a hypnotist, so I'm learning a lot off of him, so that I can better, I guess, work with a wider variety of people, because that's important to be able to work with both intuitive individuals as well as cognitive individuals and help them heal, help them work through their issues, and give them tools, more importantly, so that they become self-sufficient. Because that's ultimately what you want, is you want everybody to be in a state where they can help themselves, so that they don't have to keep coming back to you and leaning on you and using you as what I call that silver bullet. You know, that cure that they think that you're going to take everything away. And so, you know, a lot of my tools, yeah, I got my stones. Yes, I have my runes. I have all that neat kind of stuff. I have my pendulums. But ultimately, the best tool is the techniques that I have up here. And that is something that no matter what happens, no matter if I had to pack up and move out right away, or someone took everything away, you have those. And those are the most important things, because, you know, your stones, you know, your singing bowls and that kind of stuff, they're all focusing tools. You can do it all. It's just that they're all tools that kind of make it easier to do all that. They make it so you don't need as much practice, because to be able to replicate what these do, you need practice. And so they make it easy, basically.
Yeah. You got to know how to use them too, no doubt.
Yes, you do have to know how to use them, but then the neat thing is once you know how they work, you can then start to replicate that through your own methods in the higher realms, and then you can see the same effects trickle down into this realm, into your reality. So it's kind of neat to see that happening.
I'm sorry Chewy is so loud today.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I don't mind puppies.
It's just, I hope he's not drowning you out. You know, if people are trying to listen, well, I don't know. He's a funny boy sometimes. He's a little darling. Right. Oh, boy.
That's okay. That's why I'm trying to speak a little louder when he gets a little when he gets a little noisy.
Maybe he wants his own show. I don't know.
Hey, I'd do a show with him. I would do a show with him, that's for sure.
So, what are your thoughts on energy vampires? I've heard it said that people who drain your energy usually aren't aware that they do that. So, do you feel it's possible there may be those that are unaware of what they're doing and how they're doing it? Well, there are other true energy vampires who drain others of their energy, being fully aware exactly of what they're doing.
Yes, I do believe. Well, everybody, every living entity, regardless of intent, they're always exchanging energy. You know, you always take stuff in, you transmute it, and then you put it out. And so, in essence, now this is sound very broad and very vague, but essentially, we're all energy vampires. Just it's those who choose to keep it for their own selfish use and keep drawing off it for their own gain rather than just taking it in and then going, okay, I've done what I got to do with it, and then let it go. They just keep holding on to it. And, you know, from the cognitive sense, an energy vampire could be someone that's a narcissist, could be someone who's a sociopath. I think that was the correct term for it. But, you know, an energy vampire could be somebody that, you know, does, as you said, they don't realize they're doing it. But, you know, like when they're in a large group or they're around happy people, they absorb all that positive energy from that person, draw it off of them. And then, hey, guess what? Now that person's feeling like garbage because they literally just, in essence, suck the life out of them.
Right.
And you know, and they're feeling good about themselves. They got their hit and they moved on. So yes, I do believe that there are energy vampires because we all exchange energy. Just it's a matter of whether you transmute it and let it keep going or whether you hold on to it. Now, to that end, there are people that do know that they're doing it. And when they know that they're doing it, those are the type of people that are usually very sly, very sometimes it's the ones you wouldn't expect, I guess is the way to put it. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, sometimes the very charismatic individuals, you know, the ones that can lead large groups of people. They sometimes, as much as they may build people up and get people going, sometimes they're the biggest energy vampires because instead of drawing off of one person, they just draw a little bit off of everybody that they're working up and building up. But with that being said, how you can defend against them is just close yourself off. If you know somebody, like, I guess the most correct way to say it is if you start noticing a pattern when you're around somebody, you know, after you hang out with somebody, you know, a friend of yours, family member, and you feel that afterwards, man, I'm just so drained. I feel like, you know, I've been hit by a bus after I've been dealing with them, after I hang out with them. What you can do, and this is one of my techniques that I use as grounding and protections, is just imagine a cord to the earth connected to your root chakra, and then allow that cord to kind of run all the way up your all your different chakras or your energy, whether you want it to hook to your tailbone or whether you want to use your feet, whether you want to use a visualization, such as my favorite one is the technique I developed called the healing tree. You know, as long as you got a focal point that you can basically kind of allow energy to bypass you, so that instead of them sucking your energy, they're basically connecting with the earth and hooking into the earth. And that then also allows you, if they're projecting anything, because a lot of energy vampires or someone who's trying to push harm onto you, they actually leave an imprint on you as well, which that's what you don't want, because then you're picking up a lot of what they're projecting, their inner feelings, you know, what they got going on. And so you have to ground. You have to use that whatever technique, whether you want to use a bubble, whether you want to use a tether, whether you want to use a visualization technique, whatever it is you choose to you want to use, make sure that you use it when you're around those people, because what they'll find is that they won't want to be around you because they're not going to get that same hit, I guess is what you can say. And when they no longer get that energy off you, that little jump of, hey, I'm around this person and they're bubbly and I absorb it, then they won't be around you anymore, or they won't try on a conscious level or subconscious level to try and draw off you, right? And because I have had times where I've even had people try and hook into me to say, hey, I feel, like I really like your energy, and I'll give them a little bit, but usually if they need it, there's a reason for it. And so then that's when I'll work with them to figure out what's going on.
Great. And I just got a message here. EVP Paranormal Science says hello, everyone.
Oh, hello, EVP Paranormal Science. Hope you're enjoying the show. I'm trying to keep it light so I don't lose everybody, but stuff like this can lose people really easy if you go too far too fast. So.
And Sean Good says hello, Elaine, and hello, Brett.
Hello, John Good. How are you this evening?
Thank you. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, it is very nice to hear from people.
So, okay, say a person that is always complaining about something, and when you're done talking to them, that to me sounds like an energy vampire. Like I don't know if I've got the wrong slant on it.
That's a very good example of one, because usually those who are always complaining aren't happy with what's going on, right? So then no matter what you do, they're never going to be happy, and they're just going to keep feeding off of anything you give them. And so really to have someone who is always complaining, yeah, you can listen to them and you can try and offer some advice, but then usually the best way to deal with them, in my opinion, is if they don't take your advice, well then say, hey, listen, I've offered my advice. I don't want to listen to you keep complaining anymore. So either take my advice or just kind of, hush down about what's going on and let's talk about something different. Right? Kind of the old deflect and change the subject.
Yeah, I know, because there are some that I get on the internet and sometimes in person. Oh, good grief. They complain about their health. They complain about this. They complain about that. By the time I'm done talking to them, I'm so worn out. I could just go right to bed.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. And it's because you're a natural healer. So you want to give your energy, subconsciously, you like to give your energy away to try and help others feel better, right? I mean, you wouldn't be doing this type of show if you weren't trying to get a message out, weren't trying to get people more aware. So what you could do with someone like that, or even yourself, is you could kind of set boundaries. You can say, hey, I'll listen, I'll offer my advice, but that's it. I'm not going to invest any emotional reaction into this individual or what's going on.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty. We have another question here. Do you have any suggestions for people who are energy sensitive, such as empaths, to help keep themselves from being overwhelmed by the energy that they pick up on?
Well, being empathic is probably, like I said, all human beings are walking antennas. So we're all empathic to some degree. We're all sensitive to some degree. I can tell you for sure that I have worked with people who have flat out told me, I am not intuitive whatsoever. I cannot do anything with energy. And then within a year, I had them, like the one now, was one lady I dealt with. I met her at a psychic fair a couple of years ago now. She basically she's now a Reiki master and instructor, and going through for shamanistic practices and working at becoming a shaman because that's what she's been drawn to. But when she sat down with me, she's like, I have absolutely no innate abilities whatsoever. I don't know if I can do it, and I don't, I've never tried. So it's in our DNA to be empathic, to have those dreams, to be willing and able to see the high vibrational energies, feel the high vibrational energies, be connected to that universal consciousness, or if you want to call it God, or the one self, whatever you want to call it. We are designed to be connected to that because we are very social beings of the spiritual nature. I always like to say we're not here to live a spiritual experience. We're spirits and souls living a human experience. And to go a bit off tangent, when from what I've been told, as silly as this may sound, one human life is the equivalent to like something like 2 to 10 lives upstairs, however, or our longer lived lives, because being here on Earth is such a turbulent experience. It's such an experience where there's so many woes, where you have to keep learning and growing and challenging yourself. And so, that's one theory anyways, why we keep coming down to Earth as humans, because that's the best experience, best bang for your buck, basically. So back to the point, back to the question, how can a sensitive or an empath help shield themselves or ground themselves? Well, the best technique that I've seen is like the kind of anything that's similar to what I call my healing tree method. And that's a visualization where I call it the healing tree because I love nature. I love being out. You can't get angry when you're under a tree. You can't have any negative energy around you when you're under a tree, when you're walking through the forest, when you're on a hike, because the trees just absorb it all and they transmute it and give out this positive, clean energy, fresh energy. And there's other scientific reasons for that, because apparently trees give off pollens and stuff that actually make us feel better about ourselves too, from when we were back in the, living amongst the trees as either primates or even early human beings living in nature. They release pheromones, they release smells and pollens that help promote a healthy mindset as well as a healthy body. So with that being said, I use a tree, but I've worked with people when I use the healing tree method, they use the beach. Other people use an old cottage that they had. Whatever works for you, whatever is a place of significance that's peaceful, calm, relaxing. And I'm going to kind of give away my secret as this healing tree method, because it works for cognitive and intuitive people. And so then what you do is, and any empaths out there or anybody who's watching this afterwards, is you envision that space, you envision that tree, that scene, and you just let that negativity or that harmful energy or whatever it is that you're trying to get rid of, allow it to invade that space. Watch those trees die and decay. Watch that that cottage fall to shambles. Watch the beach sand get dark and murky and the water's no longer a blue clear thing, but it's nighttime. And then as the sun rises, watch everything come back to life. Allow all that negativity to go away, allow it to be burned away with the sun, with the light, with whatever the light source is, and watch everything come back to life slowly. Let your body feel that positive energy from that coming in. Let your energies balance. You see where I'm getting from here? And then as the sun comes up, high noon, it literally burns everything right down, cleanses the earth, cleanses everything. Whatever scene it is, brings everything back to life better than it was before. And this visualization works with both cognitive individuals as well as intuitive individuals because you make it your own. You make it your own happy, safe place where anything you don't need, you can put it there, you can visualize it there, and then as that light's coming up, it wipes it all out. It gets rid of it all for you. And really, what you're doing is in your head. That's what you're doing is you're saying, okay, that's all here, and then on the subconscious level, you're processing everything. You're processing the emotions that are associated with all of those, with all that negative energy, with all that harmful energy, and you're learning from it. You're using it, but then you're going to transmute it from a negative, harmful energy into a positive energy, something you can use to heal, something that you can use to relieve stress. And I mean, that's it. Like that I like to run through a couple of visualizations with the individuals first, but that in a nutshell is how I do it. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, for grounding, for, the first couple of times, especially if you can't meditate, which is a very difficult thing for a lot of people these days in our go society.
Mm-hmm. I've got a message from Bishop Plato Angelakis. He says to say hello to you.
Hey, Plato. How are you? It's been a long time, buddy. He's my exorcist friend that I met out through working with Ottawa Paranormal. So he's a great gentleman to work with.
Yeah.
And
nice
so
guy.
Yeah, he's a very great guy. Yeah. He's a joker too. I love listening to some of his jokes he's got. He can tell jokes for days on end. But
when you were talking about energy too, Brett, and how you can use it, I know sometimes that Plato says, "Doing great, old friend."
Awesome, Plato.
So I know sometimes, like when I'm in pain, quite often what I do is mentally envision almost like an electric charge going to the spot that's bothering me.
Yep.
To help it.
Yep.
And I don't know about how I suddenly started using that, but it works.
Yes. Yeah, and it works. And like that's ultimately what energy work and anything, all the intuitive craft is about. Is we all end up doing the same thing. It's just how we do it is that's what makes the difference. Because some of us have to use light to understand in the light spectrum. Some of us understand in the visual sound spectrum. Like so you see the sound waves. Others go by audio sound spectrum, so that they know the different pitches and use that. Some people, like when I started out, I'm born and baptized Roman Catholic. However, I don't practice. But when I started out to assist with my understanding of energies, I read a bunch of books based on some of the pagan belief systems. So like earth, wind, water, fire. Everything's about balance. Everything's about working with your environment to bring things back into balance. And that's where I started. And that's where I got the idea to start working instead of, that combat, that confrontation from light to dark to, everything's gray. Who's to say what you're doing is right and what I'm doing is wrong? Or who's to say what you're doing is right or what I'm doing is right and what you're doing is wrong? And so it's it's quite neat. And I personally, when I'm healing, I like to envision the muscles or the pain or whatever it is. I actually like to kind of see what it is. If it's a sore muscle, I see kind of this all disjointed muscle, right? And I like to visualize that, and then I like to say, okay, well, let's straighten you out. And so then I put some positive energy into that spot, and I visualize that muscle becoming a healthy muscle again. And then usually that works for me, right? Or I balance my chakras, or or meditate, because the state of meditation, both on an intuitive level and a cognitive level, is a very powerful thing. And why is that? It's because on the intuitive level, it quiets your mind enough that you can actually listen. You can listen to the universe, listen to your surroundings, and more importantly, be able to listen to yourself, your soul self, your true self. And then from the cognitive standpoint, it allows your body to heal because it relaxes everything in your body. And when your body's not in a fight or flight scenario, because let's face it, that's what our society is nowadays, with being go, 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 go all the time. You don't have an opportunity to stop and smell the roses.
No.
So that saying has a very strong meaning, because you have to stop and smell the roses, because you have to sit down and relax long enough to allow your body to heal. So this is the neat thing about having a hypnotist as a father, is I can explain to some degree the cognitive reasons why it works, and then the intuitive reasons why it works. It's kind of neat. And so when you meditate, you allow your body to enter in into a super healing mode where, normally, it would take you, say, a week to recover from a cold. But if you're in a meditative state for a fair amount of time every day, like me, I'm almost in a meditative state almost all the time, just because I'm always doing something upstairs, or I'm doing something internally, whether it's healing or soul searching, or upstairs, building, negotiating, whatever the case may be. And so it allows you to heal at a much more rapid rate. It calms your breathing, calms your heart down, calms your blood pressure, stops your head from running 1,000,000 miles an hour, because quite often that creates a lot of anxiety within ourselves and within people too, right?
Yeah.
So, am I entirely intuitive? Yes. But have I mixed cognitive work with being intuitive? Yes. And it's been a great tool that's allowed me to be successful in everything I've done that I've worked on so far.
Great.
And I continue to work on.
Well, I know a friend of mine, she was having a lot of pain in her shoulder. She was over playing cards one night, and so I used therapeutic touch on her.
Yep.
He said, as I was using the therapeutic touch on her, it's a funny name, though, really, because you don't actually touch the person, right?
Yep.
But anyway, she said she could feel like energy going through it, and she said it felt like electric shocks going through where the pain was.
Yep.
But it did ease the pain down.
Yeah. You know what? It works, right? Like, because that's the main thing, as long as it works. And, quite often when someone's hurting or someone's sore, they're looking for that little bit of attention, and the power of the mind when it's touched by another human being, which further reinforces the fact that we need to be connected to that oneness, that spiritual connection, that sociological connection, that unfortunately our society nowadays is designed to destroy. It's designed to keep everything separate, designed to keep us segregated from one another. And, because we heal better as a group. We maintain mental health better as a group. We maintain better physical health as a group, because we're all designed to, when someone, like when a member of the group is needing some healing, everybody gives a little bit of their energy freely on a subconscious level to help that individual heal a little better, rather than one person doing it for everybody else.
Right.
And so, it warms my heart to hear that there's others out there, such as yourself, such as Mary, who I've helped through a lot herself, and other people I work with, and it's neat to see that, and more people are becoming receptive, I guess, to the intuitive holistic approach now. A word of warning though, for anybody that is watching / listening. There's a time and place for using energy work like Reiki and intuitive, and the healing touch and stuff like that. And then there's also time and place for modern medicine too, right? So the essential oils, the chakra healings, the stone healings, the singing bowl healings, that kind of stuff. It all has its place. It's all good for preventative maintenance. It's all good for preventative work to help maintain your body, help maintain your mindfulness, your mindset. But then when you're actually sick, if you have cancer, if you have other things, yes, there are natural ways to deal with it. And if that's what you so choose to do so, then great. But don't be afraid to use modern medicine for its purposes of dealing with severe illness and severe disabilities and stuff like that too.
Mhm.
And so that's just a bit of a message, because you have to mix both. It's like, yeah, like when I mix my intuitive and cognitive work, without, one complements the other. And since I've been working with the cognitive to understand it, I've been able to further my own understanding of myself and my own understanding of how I actually energy work and how it actually has a direct effect. So, I mean, does it really work? It seems to work. Like, it seems to have influence whenever I work with somebody. And, is that the subconscious communication between the other person and I? Perhaps. Is it, just subconscious that what I'm putting out, the universe is rippling and it's making its way to the other person? Perhaps. Am I actually doing things? Perhaps. Who really knows, right? All I know is that it works. It gets people to, it helps people get in a better mind frame, helps energy workers get in a better mind frame, helps other entities, both terrestrial and non-terrestrial, get into a better mind frame. So, I mean, it works. Regardless of your method, regardless of your perception, it works.
Right. Yeah, well, it's very interesting. I know one thing I don't know much at all about the chakras and how to balance them and things like that, but it's really interesting to hear other people talking about it. So I'm going to try to learn a little bit more about that. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm always a resource to you, and I do believe we're friends on Facebook, so you can always just message me too, and I can try and work with you on that.
Thank you.
The chakras themselves are they're an interesting thing, because it all depends on one's perception, right? Like for me, when I teach it and when I perceive them, I see them as rings, right? And when they're spinning, now the camera won't really give this the right, but like when they're spinning like this, because much to what Reiki says, when Reiki says, now it's not incorrect. Reiki says energy flows from your feet up because you're connected to the earth, right? But from my experience, I've experienced energy flow from the top of my head down to my feet.
Okay.
So again, not wrong. Either perception is not wrong. It's just the perception from head to toe for me is what works for me. And it seems to kind of work for a lot of people. So I may be onto something. I don't know. But I see chakras as rings. And as long as the rings are spinning without doing this, so as long as the ring isn't doing this and chopping the energy up as it's coming down through yourself, that's when it starts creating issues. But if it's going like this and the energy is flowing through the center of it, I wish I could do a drawing for you in a decent fashion. It'd do a lot better. But long story short, when I see them, that's how I see it. So as long as it's not chopping the energy up, then that's okay. And then all you got to do is you got to figure out why. There's certain emotions, there's certain frequencies that are tied with each chakra. And I've noticed a range for each chakra, whereas most standard practices believe it's a set frequency, but we're all different. So say, for example, your heart chakra is the most common. That one there, the vibration of love is 432 kilohertz, I think. 430 hertz. I can't exactly remember. Pardon me, I'm still a little discombobulated. It's friggin' night shifts.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that you got that 432, but for some people it might be 428. For others, it might be 450. It all depends on what's going on in you at that time. So your body will always be constantly looking for stuff to adjust and keep things in sync. And so the singing bowls work great for that, because each different size has a range that it works in. And so, like the emotional attachment, there's sometimes a physical trauma. Sometimes even past life stuff also affects your current life as well with your chakras. So as long as they're spinning in my perception, they're spinning the right way, or if you see them as balls of light, if they're whatever color they're supposed to be, because each one has a different color associated with it, or a different sound, or a different emotional feeling, whatever the case may be, as long as it feels right, then you're doing well. And of course, I'm speaking very vaguely about this because I want to try and keep it as attached to all audience as possible, because if I were going to detail,
we could possibly do another show on that, you know, if you're willing to.
Yeah, I would not mind it at all.
Great, because I see we're up to our hour, believe it or not. Already our hour's gone. So,
already? Wow, that was quick.
So anyway, maybe what we should do then, Brett, is sign off for tonight. And if you're willing to come back on and discuss that in more detail, that'd be wonderful.
Sure, no problem. I'd have to put some notes together because I can't just talk it all off the top of my head. I'd have to put some notes together for that. But
no problem at all. No, I understand. All right.
Yeah.
So anyone you'd like to shout out to before we sign off for the night, or?
I would like to just say that to anybody in the Cambridge area that might be listening, the Cambridge Guelph area, I am holding my first public intuitive and cognitive wellness and mindfulness seminar on April 7th at the Purple Door in Cambridge. So if you're in Brantford, anywhere like that, the event is on my web or on my Facebook page, on my UPM Facebook page. It's being shared on there. I am going to share a bit of my story, a bit in detail, and a lot more of my techniques that I use personally to survive what went on in my life, because it was very traumatic that I had in my life. I'm not going to go into very much detail, but long story short, I'm in a lot better place because of my techniques and mindfulness techniques that I learned, and I'm willing to teach that to you guys. So the event is on my UPM Facebook page. I share it on my own personal Facebook page all the time because obviously it is my event. And I welcome everybody to come out to it. The cost is $60 a ticket to get in. It's April 7th from 1 to 3 p.m. So
Great.
I would go. Anyways, thank you very much, Elaine.
Well, thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Got another message from Bishop Plato. He says, have a good night. Good talk.
Thanks, Plato. I'll be messaging you a little later on tonight.
Alrighty. So we must keep in touch then and see what we can do about getting another show up for your other discussion there.
Oh yeah. I could talk about anything. Just got to give me a bit of forewarning.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate having you on. Looking forward to having you on again.
Thank you very much, Elaine, and I look forward to it again as well.
Great. Thank you. Take care now.
Yep.
Good night, everybody, and thank you so much for joining our show tonight. See you again next week, Lord willing. Bye for now. God bless.